1. This happened last night. It's been a wild ride. 2 days ago I received a message from some dude who found me over a programming Discord server. He wanted to pay me for a small project. It was a seemingly simple program written in C++, a programming language. I had nothing else to do that day, so I started writing. By the looks of it, it would only take a few hours. Oh boy, was I wrong. I began writing at 2 PM and immediately knew this was going to be a longer project than I had originally anticipated. Eventually I had to call it a night. It was 6 AM. The next morning, 12 PM-ish, I was back at it. For 2 days straight I worked on this thing with the help of prescribed Adderall, and by the end, my brain was completely exhausted. 8 PM. Glad to have it over with, I needed to relax. Lucky me, a friend wants to come over with his new dab oil. What could go wrong? When he shows me this oil, I am immediately suspicious. It was dark, and didn't look like anything I had seen before. He says it's just because it's prepared a different way. Good enough for me. He says I can try some on one condition. He gets to choose the portion size. It prepares a chunk about the size of a penny, but 150% thicker. Being a testosterone-fueled 19-year-old, I accepted his challenge. It took about 4 pulls to clear, and by the end I was already stoned. I took a seat at my computer to begin my usual routine of Netflix and browsing YouTube. About 40 minutes later, I broke out into a cold sweat and began to feel nauseous. Not a lot, but enough to warrant a trip to the bathroom. For the first 5 minutes or so, I just stared at myself in the mirror. My heart was racing. I started to not recognize the person staring back, but before I could think about it too long, everything started glowing. Objects started to lose shape and just sort of blended together. The colors became separated and seemed to radiate off of each other. I was fucked. Everything started to get less bright. Kind of like one of those Instagram filters, except it didn't stop. It just kept getting darker and darker until eventually nothing. I tried flipping the light switch a few times. Still nothing. That's when I realized I was blind. Although I had never experienced temporary blindness, I remembered reading about it somewhere, so I was able to keep my sanity. With that being said, not being able to see isn't exactly a calm experience. Afraid to move, I just kind of stood there. I don't know how much time went by, but eventually things started to fade back in. Immediately I took a seat on the toilet and prepared myself for the journey. I sat there for quite some time, my vision slowly regaining its clarity. I started up the shower and threw up in the toilet a couple of times. I am fucked. My motor functions were restricted to large single movements, not too far off from what a robot trying to mimic a human might look like. At this point I was convinced that those dabs were laced, but it turns out they were just really strong. Not long after I was in the shower, I began to hear musical notes. They were clear as day and in my head, unhindered by the sound of the shower, and there was no echo. Well, shit. I shut off the shower and took a seat. It was all I could do to keep my brain from exploding. A good amount of time goes by and I begin to hear some voices. Luckily, these are the voices of my roommates in the next room. Only I couldn't understand a word they were saying. I had forgotten English. I could recognize that the words were of the English language, but I couldn't bring myself to extract meaning. Immediately I tried to talk. I came very close to making a noise that resembled hello, but objectively it was a failure. I am very fucked. Interestingly enough, I was able to coherently send a text to my boss saying that I might not be able to make it into work the next day. Eventually I turn the shower back on and just sit there. Not much more happens. I hear the notes once in a while and eventually I regain motor functions and dry myself off. Getting dressed was an adventure in and of itself, but eventually I succeeded. I passed out 2 minutes after my head hit the pillow. It was 2 AM. I slept until 4 p.m. the next day, only waking up in the morning to text my boss. Don't smoke big weed when exhausted. 2. Obligatory, this occurred about 6 years back now. I was visiting my exchange partner in southwest Germany for my 17th birthday. I spent 3 weeks with his family to visit prior to the exchange that would take place during the upcoming school year. This actually happened while Ted was in theaters, if that can provide a timeline. We had wanted to get together with a few of his friends and had decided to go see the movie Ted, the Mark Wahlberg movie with the talking teddy bear. I remember this so distinctly because we chose a German dubbed with English subtitles for whatever reason, and the voiceover for Mark Wahlberg was just hilarious sounding. After the movie, we decided to go and drink at some of the local bars. Movie ended around 10 p.m. or so, and we were at the bars until close. I had felt guilty that my friend bought my movie ticket, so I decided to buy beers for the night. We decided on one of the local Freiburger 5-liter mini kegs, and went to work on it. Once the bar closed, we didn't want to call it a night, and decided to walk to the nearest gas station to buy more beer. This is where the fuck-up begins. By this point, being a young American with some minor alcohol experience at this point in my life, I was quite drunk. We stumbled our way to the gas station, and when we got there, my friend, we'll call him Jay, was insistent upon buying some Pringles and goldfish. I figured if we were getting food, I have to get myself a soft pretzel, so I did. On our way back into the city, we stopped for a brief moment so our friend could call his parents and let them know that we were still in the city and would be back in a few hours. At this point, something in my brain decided it would be an excellent idea to climb the tree that was right next to me. So in all my brilliance, I did just that. Halfway up the tree, I dropped my pretzel, and in the struggle to grab it as it's slipping out of my hands, I fall out of the tree. Now my drunk self decided that me falling out of the tree was clearly not my own fault, but the work of the tree. So I got mad and decided I couldn't eat my dirty pretzel anymore. I then decided that throwing the pretzel at the next car that drove by would be an excellent idea. So without even double checking, I hid behind the tree and gave my best fastball I could with that pretzel at the first headlights I saw. As soon as the pretzel left my hand, I looked up and saw Polizei big across the side of the car. The pretzel made contact with the passenger door, and my friends, minus the one on the phone, scattered. Now if that fuck-up wasn't enough, I then decided that I couldn't follow my friends, you know, the ones that know the city, and I had to split up from the group. So I ran the opposite direction under a bridge. I hid under that bridge for about 10 minutes, sitting in a bush watching the stairs on both sides. If the police were to come down one side, I would run to the other. If they came down both, I was prepared to swim across whatever little river it was. Over these 10 minutes, I'm getting repeated phone calls from my friend who I'm staying with while over there. But I assume he's been caught and trying to get me to turn myself in, so I didn't answer. But after a few calls, I decided maybe I should check out how it looks above the bridge. So I walked back up the way I came, and immediately I'm surrounded by cop cars. The closest car even had the kid who was on the phone handcuffed in the back seat. They proceed to take us back to the station. Had no clue what to do with my American driver's license when they asked for ID, and poured out all of our beer in front of us. That, of course, was met with groans and whines by my friends and I. And those whines were met with being placed in separate cells while they called what I assume was the DA and informed him of what we did and awaited for a response for what to do with us. In the end, we had to be picked up by each parent. A few of the kids were punished by their parents for my actions, which I felt so bad for. Fortunately for us, the DA, or whatever is the equivalent, was extremely reasonable and dropped all charges that night. But I had still already made an ass of myself to all his friends and family. Three. Obligatory 10 years ago. Junior year in high school, circa 2005. A teacher and some parents sponsored an elective class trip to Costa Rica. I scrimped, saved, and begged to raise the cash and bought my slot to go. I was pumped. Back in high school, I was the funny guy, got along with everyone but didn't keep a super tight circle of friends. Did whatever I could to get a laugh and lived off it. Being from a somewhat sheltered small town, I elected it would be absolutely hysterical to wear an exotic swimsuit while away at an exotic location. Searching high and low, I found myself a yellow banana hammock to don in my trip. I wasn't particularly a show-off. I was athletic but thick, around 5'11", 190 pounds. And who doesn't enjoy a pasty, pillowy dude flinging his bulge around willy-nilly in the Caribbean? The trip is fantastic. One of the best trips of my life. White sandy beaches with clean turquoise water. First time I'd seen the ocean. Treks through the jungle, winding drives on dirt roads, snaking along precarious mountain cliffs. And the volcanic hot springs where the dress code would be lycra. On the second to last day of the trip, we roll in the volcanic hot springs, Irazu I think, and its gorgeous, rolling hot tubs carved out of the rock. I strap on my manties and start gallivanting around the springs, rocking a confident 17-year-old dad bod. I'm positioning my tightly wrapped man-meat burrito at eye level to teachers and chaperones who are dipping their feet in the springs, striking a Captain Morgan pose and putting my foot up on the seat of a beach-style chair another teacher was sitting in, and doing just about everything I could to drop and pick something up, to show that my itty-bitty spandex pouch was doing everything it could to support the 2 hams I was smuggling in the back of it. I imagine a lot of people were annoyed or offended, but the smirking, smiling, blushing, eye-covering, and giggling continued to egg me on. The spring had a policy. To prevent any issues from pores being open too long, they had you drench yourself in cold water every 20 minutes to hit a reset button on your skin and close the pores up. There were shower heads with little pull cords attached that you could stand under and cool off. Positioning myself under one of the rainy-style shower heads, I loudly announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, gather round and witness one of the great miracles and mysteries of nature." Motioning at my bulge, which was generously loosened up by the hot water of the springs, I ripped on the shower cord and wriggled under the freezing water, while my frank turned into a Vienna sausage, and my grapes turned to raisins. We all had a good laugh, and people couldn't believe I'd do something like that without trying to hide myself. We were away from school, and I was having a blast. I felt truly in my element. An element anyway. I felt kind of free. Now, here's the fuck up. This was before the age of digital cameras. At least they were quite expensive at the time, and traveling in a foreign country we had all packed disposable cameras. It took a couple weeks for everyone's pictures to get developed. When a friend's pictures came back, I was absolutely shocked. I was excited to see my Speedo shots, maybe have a couple prints handy to throw in a friend's backpack or on their desk to embarrass them. But I couldn't. I looked closely at the first picture of me. Fully frontal in my basically bikini, looking the opposite of Fabio-esque. You could see everything. It wasn't a bulge, it wasn't a package, it was a literal cock and balls. Every line, every ripple, every zig and zag. The material of the Speedo was so thin and just tight enough that the lycra made perfect outlines of every ridge. You could see the head. If you squinted and turned your head a little bit, you could just about see a vein. You could see where one part of me started and the next began. It was mortifying. I had passed the mirror test, or so I thought. But I was totally pissed. While I thought I was dancing around making people slightly uncomfortable, but bringing them some joy, I was aggressively exposing my nearly nude tackle to everyone. I was no better than a trenchcoat flasher. The worst part about it, nobody told me. I had spare swim trunks. Nobody told me, because they thought I knew and they thought I was putting on a show. I unknowingly ruined a lot of vacation pictures and probably offended, kinda the plan, but not to this degree, a lot of people. I was so shocked and embarrassed after the prints came out. I learned my lesson, and for my senior class trip to Florida, I got a white tiger stripe man's string bikini. 4. So, my night started as any other night in the middle of the week. Came home, cooked dinner, did the dishes and surfed the net. Then I got an idea, which for the next couple of hours would be a painful experience in my mind. Maybe I should get the wax from the bathroom cupboard. As said, so done. Out to the bathroom I went. It's one of those cold wax products. No melting the wax in a pot, just rub the strips in your hands until they're warmish, then peel them from each other and put them on your leg or wherever you want to use them. And then you just rip the thing off right away, no problem. How hard can it be? I mean, I'm no genius, but I consider myself somewhat intelligent. As if. So I pulled the strip out. It's 2 strips facing each other, so that they were stuck together. Instead of warming them between my hands, I got the brilliant idea of warming them with my hairdryer. So I'm warming the strips up with 1000 watts. Cold wax? Haha! I placed the strip on my inner thigh, a firm grip with the working hand on my thigh, and then ripped it off. It's working! Granted, it's not the most pleasant of sensations, but it's not bad. I'm awesome at this. I am a she-devil. I am the fighter against body hair and the guru of extravagant soft skin. With the next strip, I travel north. I throw off my panties and place my foot on the toilet. With the same procedure, I place the strip on my bikini line, so the strip covers my hoo-ha. The strip is stretching from my hoo-ha down to the inner side of my buttock. Yes, it was a long strip. Then I inhale deeply and rip! I'm blind!
Blinded by pain! Oh, fuck me!
My vision comes back. I see I've only ripped half of the strip off. Shit! Another deep breath and rip! Everything is spinning and I see black dots. I think I'm fainting. Must stay up! Can I hear drums? Okay. Breathe. Breathe. I want to see my trophy. That wax strip that has endured me so much pain, filled with my hair. I shall be victorious in my fight against body hair. I hold the strip up before my eyes and look at it. There is no hair on the strip. Where is the hair? And where is the fucking wax? Slowly I lower my head, still with my foot on the toilet. I see the hair. The hair that should have been on this strip. It's not there. I reach down to feel for it. I'm touching wax. I am touching myself in the most sensitive part of my body that is covered with cold wax and hair. Then I make my next big mistake. I remember that my foot is still on the toilet. I must do something. So I take my foot down. Shut! My ass is shut! Sealed! I waddle like a penguin in my bathroom, trying to figure out what to do. Please, God, I hope I don't need to poo, because I think my head will pop off. What can I do to melt the wax? Hot water! Hot water will melt the wax. I fill up with hot water in my tub, as hot as manageable. I slide in and then the wax will melt. And I can carefully remove it, right? Wrong! The only thing that's worse than getting your downstairs glued together is having them melted. Melted to the bottom of the tub in boiling hot water. And the wax doesn't even melt. Now I am apparently glued to the bottom of the tub, like if I had cemented myself to the porcelain. Thank God for the man who convinced me to get a phone installed in my bathroom. I phone my friend, because I'm sure she knows how to get me out of this situation. A great way to start a conversation, right? Yeah, so my ass and my hoo-ha are glued to the bottom of the tub. There's a slight pause. She does not know any secrets or tips on how to get me out of this situation. But she does not try to conceal her laughter. She wants to know directly where the wax is placed on my person. Are we talking buttocks or the whole hoo-ha? She's laughing hard now, and I can hear her. I give her the short version, and she suggests that I call the number on the package the wax came in. Yeah, right. Like I want to be the joke of the evening. While we go through other options, I try to get that wax off with a razor. Nothing beats the feeling of having my female hood covered in warm wax. My hoo-ha glued together, sitting in boiling water, with my ass melted to the bottom of the tub, and use a razor. My brain isn't functioning anymore. My self-respect is gone, and I'm sure I will need a psychiatrist with a major in post-traumatic stress after this. My friend is still talking to me when I see my salvation. The gel you use to remove excess wax with. Really, what do I have to lose? I put some of the gel on and, God damn it! My scream must have woke the whole neighborhood and scared the life out of my friend. It is so painful, but I actually don't care. It's working. My friend congratulates me and we end the conversation. I remove the rest of the wax when I discover, to my horror, the hair is still there. All of it. Well, I don't care, so I shave it off. Damn, I am so sore right now. Numb. I would amputate my own leg at this point. I think I will try to dye my hair next week. 5. I walk into the room where I'm staying, and I see a shiny steel ball whose shape and size I know very well, nestled in the carpet instead of nestled between two sides of a ring, right next to my dick head. Shit! Apparently a few days ago, when I had the Prince Albert out for a few hours, and I put the ball back in, it wasn't anchored properly. My pants and drawers get down like James Brown in No Time Flat. I find that there is no jewellery, and the member which my wife has affectionately named General Thundercock has been disarmed. Even if I had the faintest fucking clue where the ring dropped out. Let's see. Was it in my mother-in-law's BMW, or on the couch in the living room, or somewhere on the floor near where my daughter is sleeping? It sure isn't in the bed where I can find it. Would I be able to put it back in? The jewellery has clearly been gone for many hours, because there is little if any indication of a hole on the bottom of my penis. At this point, my thoughts turn to whether or not I'm going to be able to save the thing, and if I do, what state is it going to be in? It would take a miracle to get the jewellery I had been wearing back in if I managed to find it. So panic mode begins. Although I say something to my wife about letting go of the piercing, she knows that's not what I want. She and I are rummaging through the drawers of her mom's desk, trying to find something we can stick into my junk that might save the piercing. Right away, a bent paperclip is through the PA, and at least we know that something might be salvaged. But it doesn't look good for the prospect of inserting anything wider. Mom and Dad-in-law call down the hall that it's time for dinner. I ask my wife to beg off from me, and she goes out to sit down with everyone. Meanwhile, I end up in the bathroom with a handful of items we are hoping might fit through the hole. A small screwdriver, a couple sizes of paperclip, the horse straw off a can of dust cleaner. I don't remember what else. I'm rubbing hand lotion all over all this crap, staring at the diameter on things, poking myself to explore, but nothing's going to work. Out to the dinner table I go with a paperclip in my penis, an upset stomach, and no real idea how I'm going to arrange for new jewellery. An insertion taper, at least not as quickly as I want them, which is like right fucking now. If I were at home, I'd likely have everything I need. Worst case scenario, I'd end up down one size to a 12 gauge. With the paperclip in play, I'm definitely worried about how many stretches it's going to take to fix this fuck up. Later in the evening, the in-laws are gone for a while, and so the wife and I start raiding all the drawers in the kitchen. We find skewers and toothpicks. I'm hopeful that I can get the skewer through, which looks to be the proper gauge. But I take both back to the bathroom and start with the lotion and the poking again. The skewer is never going to fit, so all hope is basically riding on the toothpick. I know that putting either of these wooden objects through a tight piercing is probably something that by itself could generate a TIFU story. But I've endured a lot to keep this piercing, and I'm genuinely afraid that it's not really going to be salvageable based on keeping it open with the paperclip alone. Going from the outside, bottom, in, the toothpick is actually seeming like it's going to work. I don't know how long I pushed, slow and with this much force as I could stand, trying to get it all the way through and for the shaft of the toothpick to stick out of my shaft. From another unrelated fuck-up, I've given myself something of a long urethral opening on the top of my penis. It was only today I realized that this is enough of a separation, opening, that I can clearly see the internal place where the PA comes out inside the urethra. I'm watching this wooden spike trying to push through the sensitive pink flesh in there, and I can tell how much is left trying to come through. Things have gone from panicked to painful to surreal, and the toothpick is either not moving or going so slowly, I can't really see the progress. I figure that I'm going to be sitting there putting pressure on the toothpick and keeping my penis in place for however long it takes. Every couple minutes I make a harder push to see if I can rotate the toothpick to try to move it farther through the piercing. My wife comes in and she's not too happy with what she sees happening. She wants to switch strategies and try something different. I'm afraid that pulling the toothpick out and trying to get anything else in is going to really traumatize the PA more and make insertion harder, so I'm reluctant. But when she suggests it, I see that the dust cleaner's straw is the same diameter as the toothpick. Okay, that might work. Agonizingly, I work the toothpick free. Then I put it back in with the pointed end going outside. My wife helps me get the straw onto the end of the toothpick, and I'm trying to guide things while she provides the pressure. Luckily, the straw is nice and smooth and will actually take some lubrication. Between that and the stretching, the toothpick was able to accomplish it. It makes its way through with a minimum amount of hassle, and little or no pain. I'm now lying here with a straw through my dick that's secured with a twist tie. It's the end of a day that just seems unreal. Tomorrow I have to worry about a more permanent solution to my problem. My wife's been a tremendous help in dealing with this mess. But as I turn to her, wanting to feel a little more hopeful, she says, "And I was going to blow you tonight." Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 69. Thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. You know, with all that dong and hoo-ha activity in this video, I think 69 was definitely the right video to put them in. For those wondering about the Great Hellfreezer Bike Caper, it's been resolved now, pretty much. Picked up. I had to arrange for a delivery from Parcel Force, but they picked it up and got it there quite promptly, actually, earlier than I was expecting. And I got an email on Friday when I woke up from Amazon saying they'd received it, sent the money back to my account, and I contacted them with a copy of the receipt for the delivery charges, and they've sent that to my account as well. It's not in yet, but I expect it will show up in 5 to 7 days, working days most likely. So thankfully that's over. I've already been down to the local Halfords, and they let me try a bike out there just for the height and that. It was a bit too tall, so I've ordered one that's an 18-inch frame. That should be hopefully about right. And that will be in on Tuesday, and they'll assemble it, and they're going to let me go down. I haven't paid for it yet. They're going to order it in, going to assemble it, and I can go in and try it. And if it's okay, I'll give them my money and I'll ride it home with any luck. Anyway, just in case anyone was curious how things worked out. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.